A very warm welcome, colleagues, to this CGIAR All Staff webinar. If you would like to hear the session in Spanish, just press the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen. Let me remind everyone that today's session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available on the CGIAR info point within the coming days for any colleagues who were unable to attend. If you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, please just write to events@cgiar.org and we'll do what we can to sort those out for you. At the midpoint and at the end today, we will invite you to take an interactive poll. And to participate, we'll be visiting menti.com, which I think many of you are familiar with at this point on your phone or your computer, and enter a code that we'll be showing you on screen so that you can use a direct link into that chat. For today's meeting, we have 75 minutes, and we're all just delighted to be joining you today. Myself, the rest of the executive management team, and 4 newly appointed directors who we're looking forward to introducing to all of you. In the first half of today's webinar, you'll hear briefly from myself, but also Kundhavi and Elwyn, and then we'll move to introducing the newest members of our senior leadership team. You will hear from them directly, and we will be trying to answer some of the questions that you have sent in ahead of time. In the second half of the webinar today, Kundhavi, Elwyn, and I will try to answer many of your additional questions directly, as many as we can fit in. And as always, we've received a lot of questions in advance of the session, and we thank you for that. We thank you for the engagement. We will also have the option to submit questions live via the Q&A function, again, at the bottom of your screen. So please know that we're collecting all of the questions that come in. We'll do our best to respond with the time that we have, either live or in the chat. Otherwise, we'll use other channels to capture and respond to the questions that you ask of us. At this point, though, I'd like to turn over to Jimmy Smith, our Senior Director for Livestock-Based Systems, DG of ILRI, to give us a short update on the situation in Ethiopia. Jimmy, please.
Thank you, Claudia. Colleagues from wherever you're joining, I'm pleased to be able to join you today. As Claudia said, I've been asked to give you a brief update on what's the situation in Ethiopia, given that Ethiopia has been much in the news lately. It's been in the news about a conflict between the federal government of Ethiopia and the Tigrayan People Liberation Front, both a political and a military organization from the region of Tigray in the far north of Ethiopia. Indeed, Ethiopia has been in the news about conflicts before now, and those have been regional conflicts seemingly associated with disparities in economic and social development, sometimes with quite significant ethnic overtones. But the current conflict is quite urgent and serious because the government of Ethiopia itself declared a state of emergency on November 2nd. So what is the cause of this conflict at the present time? Conflicts like these it's very difficult to trace the source, and there may be several causes and with aggregation over time. As best we can tell, this is precipitated by the federal government postponing a general election in August last year, which the TPLF, or the Tigrayan Liberation Front, did not agree with and went ahead and hold an election in that province. This heightened the tension between the government and the TPLF. Subsequent to that, the TPLF attacked the government garrison in Mekelle, which is the capital of Tigray. That happened in November, and the government quickly retaliated by attacking the TPLF. Since then, the conflict has been ongoing, but it took a serious turn recently because of reports that the TPLF has been making steady progress southwards towards the capital of Ethiopia. It is confirmed that the TPLF have left their region. How far they are south and how many towns or cities they have taken are not definitively confirmed. But to the extent that the government itself declared a state of emergency on November 2nd, and US and UK governments have been asking their citizens to evacuate, means that this was a serious conflict without unknown trajectories of how it might end up. So about a week ago, I asked for a meeting with the DGs and the EMT, and we agreed that out of abundant precaution, we should follow the advice that was being given to relocate our internationally appointed staff, the foreigners out of Ethiopia. To date, most have left. There are only 9 expatriate staff from the various CG centers left in Addis. Over this time, we as ILRI, which hosts most of the CG centers there, all of the CG centers there, working under the provisions of our security and safety policy and on behalf of all the CG centers, have been trying to manage the crisis. We've been managing it under 3 large areas. First, the issue of staff safety and security. So all field work was suspended and staff was asked to return to their home base, wherever that was, and shelter there. So far, there have been no reports, despite the ethnic overtones of this, there have been no reports of any ethnic animosity that resulted in risk to staff. So staff are safe, but work has been suspended. The second area we worked on is the security of the campus itself, which has not only offices and other facilities, but houses a significant amount of CG staff and other hosted institutions. As you know, the Gates Foundation, IFAD, FAO have all people housed on the campus. In that regard, we know that the campus has a relatively good perimeter fence, and so we rely on that as well as beefing up internal security. We do not think that we will be under threat by any military actions, but in circumstances like these, if there is security breakdown, people who feel at risk might seek to enter in large numbers. Or under security uncertainty and chaos, bandits try to take advantage of that and could be a nuisance. We feel we're relatively secure, both by the perimeter fence and internal security, who, however, are not armed. The third area we've been working on is how to ensure that the campus is provisioned with supplies and services, sufficient water, fuel, food, and so on, to last of a significant duration, a month or more. And this has been done. So as I speak, we're uncertain about the trajectory of the conflict, and we are unable to confirm many of the conflicting reports, except to ascertain that the TPLF had ventured out far out of their bases, and could be as close as 400 kilometers from Addis. However, Addis appears normal. People are going about their business normally, and there is a flurry of diplomatic and other mediation efforts taking place at the present time. So uncertainty, but we do not see an immediate threat. Thanks, Claudia.
Thank you, Jimmy, for that very thorough report. It's a very troubling situation, and we certainly want all staff in Ethiopia or all whole staff, all of us who care about Ethiopia, to know that this is very much on our minds. And a sincere thank you to Jimmy and all of your team and the CGIAR security team who have been liaising to ensure that we are doing everything that we can to ensure the well-being of our staff and their families in these really very, very difficult circumstances. If people have any specific questions for Jimmy, perhaps they can put questions into the Q&A. I'm not sure how much additional information is available. But we will likely move forward now with the next topic on our agenda. But please, if you have any concerns, do reach out to Jimmy. Okay. Importantly, people are asking just the overview question, Jimmy, if you would, whether Addis is safe right now.
Yes, people are going about their normal business, as I said, in Addis. So Addis seem quite safe. We have no reports of disturbances of any proportion.
Very good. So our thoughts remain with all of our colleagues and all Ethiopians. We will turn now to a relatively rapid update from Kundhavi and then Elwyn and myself on just sort of large headline developments over these last 2 months since we most recently spoke. Let me turn then now to Kundhavi, please.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Just in terms of highlights, I think we wanted to share with you what's the big achievement so far for this year. We're almost at the end of the year now. So advancing the research and innovation agenda and shoring up funding was a big priority. And this year, we showed up big in all the global events, starting from the Global Adaptation Summit in January, all the way up to the pre-summit in Rome for the UN Food Systems Summit, the UNFSS, and the COP, the one that concluded recently. So in all these events, we really advanced the CGIAR research and innovation agenda. And now we see that this is perhaps a key element of the areas of support that you hear across on the food systems as a whole. So it's a great opportunity that we have really used in the last several months to advance the agenda. Particularly, it was very nice to see the EMT leadership, the senior leadership team, and also several technical specialists taking their role and speaking in these global events. Now, along with the advancing the research and innovation agenda, funding was certainly a big priority for us. And you all saw the note that we sent out in terms of the funding commitments that came about, where it all adds up to close to $1 billion for the 2022-24 period. And this was a very nice way to really close this year. We still have another 6-8 weeks to go. And we are looking forward to getting further commitment on funding. You will hear more from André on that, some of the breakdowns where people confuse whether is this for 1 billion we are talking about for a year or for 3 years. So you'll get a little bit more further information on this from André. But let me just stop there, just very pleased to share with you all that the visibility of CGIAR on the global stage was really a significant moment all throughout the year. And the fact that the funding also, the one that we really focused on in pooled funding from the System Council funders to cover a large part of our initiatives coming through in a strong way by end of the year are two positive achievements that I would want to share with all of you colleagues. Thank you, and back to you, Claudia.
And over to Elwyn.
Yeah, it's hard to pick one thing out, colleagues. It's been such a intense, amazing period the last few months since we last had one of these events. There's just so much progress, really strong technical work on so many fronts, whether it's going through the new destination structure and working through the finalization of that, the whole affiliation process we'll talk about, putting together a budget, all kinds of stuff. But I guess what brings this together is people, and it's the leadership as well. And the highlight, the real standout for me was the first ever time we've actually got together as a senior leadership team. And thanks, Roland, for putting this up, where, you know, graciously hosted by the Alliance, the wonderful new Alliance facilities in Rome. We actually had a largely in-person meeting of the new senior leadership team of CGIAR. And we had about 90% in-person turnout. The remainder, almost entirely, were able to participate throughout by video. And it was just great. I mean, it was really, you know, it made me think how much easier this would have been if we'd been able to do that during the COVID period. And what a miracle we got as far as we could without even meeting in person. But it was great. And there was a real sense, there was an analogy that built through the meeting of, it kind of felt like we were, you know, a team of trekkers or mountaineers going through a mountain range, where, you know, there are various peaks we have to go round, some we have to go over, we have to shift our course sometimes, we have to define more exactly the destination for where we're going beyond the mountain range. We're working on that too, and really building that team cohesion. The atmosphere was just great. I think my colleagues came away with a sense that this is the team to do this, and to really prove to the world that CGIAR is capable of, frankly, making the biggest kind of change in an international organization that certainly I've ever seen, and many of others have seen. So it was great, and we're going to try and meet again, probably in February. January dates look a bit problematic. Probably meet again in person in February to really sustain that momentum. Back to you, Claudia.
Thanks, Elwyn. And to pick a highlight, of course, from the science group, really what is just tremendously exciting is that the first batch of initiatives, the first 19 of the CGIAR initiatives, were submitted for external independent review at the end of September. That review, as you know, is being moderated by our own Independent Science for Development Council, the ISDC. And the balance of the initiatives will be submitted in the next couple of weeks. So these have gone in 2 phases, but they're all part of a single cohesive portfolio. And these initiatives, I think, are really ambitious and exciting. We're all really proud and impressed by the work of the teams who have been working absolutely tirelessly to plan and design these new initiatives with an eye to both the national and regional and local impacts and engagements. Really pleased to see the quality and the vision of the initiatives. Very excited to see the way these initiative design teams are already really quite functioning as one CGIAR teams. They're pulling across different centers. They're working and co-creating with key partners outside of the CGIAR as well. And trying to really articulate the vision of what we can do in these more integrated and ambitious teams that we're pulling together. For anyone who is interested in browsing the initiatives, we have also launched an initiative dashboard. It's online on the CGIAR.org website that provides details and target funding information. It also shows where the proposed geographic focus will be of the different initiatives in that have been submitted. It's a great tool for us to be able to look at where we're working, what we're doing, and help us ensure that we have the impact and the ambition across all regions and in all of the spaces where we believe we can make the greatest impact. Later this month, we will be meeting with the system board, and then in mid-December with the system council. And we hope at that point to confirm the funding for the full portfolio of initiatives so that they can begin to roll out in January as we fondly bid farewell to the CRPs. I'm excited to see a bunch of the announcements of these final workshops and the important closure that we're seeing in some of those initiatives, but knowing that the golden eggs that we've been talking about are being captured and built upon in this next set of initiatives. So in terms of the science group, just a tremendous thanks to our global directors, to Barbara, Yo, and Martin, the incredible technical teams and the IDT teams that have been working so tirelessly to deliver those initiatives, along with all the colleagues in the finance and communications and IT that have put together the package and the dashboard and the programs unit, who have been helping to refine and pull these packages together. Really just tremendous work and setting us up beautifully for a strong transition. So that's a quick round from us. We want really now to turn over to introduce the new directors. So let me turn to Kundhavi.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Yeah, I think I have 4 senior global directors and regional directors who are coming on board, and therefore very excited to introduce them. All 4 in the Global Engagement Innovation Group. Sorry, it took longer than I had initially envisaged, so, but I'm glad that they are finally here. So let me first introduce Temina. Temina is Lalani-Shariff is the regional director for South Asia. She's started as of yesterday. She'll be based in New Delhi, and she comes from ILRI, has a good background, having worked in ILRI in the region and all over, particularly in the area of advocacy, strategy, and looking at ILRI's work across the world. She brings diverse management and business development skill, and I'm really happy to see her come into the region, which is perhaps one of the very complex but very potential region for CGIAR. So with that, I really am glad to have her join us and want her to speak to you all directly as to what she sees as the opportunities and where she brings herself and CGIAR in supporting and working together with our countries in the South Asia region. With that, Temina, can I ask you to come in and speak?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kundhavi. Just want to say hello to everybody who's online right now. I think we're just about 500 participants, so that's amazing. And it's great to be here with a chance to interact with you. First off, just really quickly, I'd really like to thank those of you who reached out a couple of weeks ago when the announcement came out to welcome me. I was really touched by some of the kind words that you had to say. And many of you have really generously offered to meet with me or to introduce me to your counterparts in the region. Considering, as Kundhavi said, that this is day 2 of my role, my new role, I've had a chance to meet some of you, but I'm also looking forward to meeting many more of my colleagues in the region. And I'm also looking forward to working across the organization. I had the chance today to meet my new colleagues at the senior leadership team, and really looking forward to getting a chance to meet them more formally and to get to know them, and also to work with those of you across the organization that perhaps I haven't had a chance to work with in the past. So lots of new opportunities ahead. And so one of the things I wanted to chat with you briefly about in the couple of minutes that I've got with you is, if I think about it, just in thinking about the role that I'm taking on in South Asia, as I've been getting ready for this role, I wanted to share with you 2 quick reflections about what I see for the region. My first reflection is around the diversity of opportunity in South Asia. And this is something that I see really strongly in South Asia. So, you know, in my time sort of living and working in South Asia over the last 10 years, I'm always really conscious of the vast diversity that there is, right? Country to country, but also even within countries. For example, you know, India has very clear global ambitions, right? And if you consider what we witnessed at COP26 last week in terms of some of those final negotiations, we've certainly heard from them in our interactions that they're interested in increasing South-South cooperation. And they see themselves really very much as equal research partners to ourselves. By the same token, if we think about Bangladesh and their pride at you know, having reached that middle income status and really looking to continue that trajectory, And yet this is a country that's still very much grappling with rising malnutrition and with some of the issues around climate change and mitigation in the polar areas. Really, that's some of the more serious issues in the world. And then, you know, at the same time, if we think about some of the economic or political issues that we're facing in Pakistan, or some of the more recent political challenges in Sri Lanka, you know, in Pakistan, we're dealing with sort of economic development issues and just basic food security issues. And so there's such a diversity across these regions. I think that's what's going to make it really challenging, but also really interesting to work here. And I think our country partners are making very different demands of us today. When you think about what they want to achieve, they're really looking for us to, and our research, to support the ambitions that they have set for themselves in the region. And they really, what we keep hearing in a number of our interactions is that they want to co-develop that research and they want to share capacity with us, very much as a two-way street. We have as much to learn from our country partners as they have to learn from us. And I think that gives us, I see that as something that's really promising. It gives us an opportunity for more and larger research and impact opportunities in the region. And I think with that also comes a diversity of potential support, both financial as well as in partnerships. There are a number of individuals and organizations that we haven't yet begun to tap into in the region. And I'm really looking forward to working to find those new opportunities and to take advantage of those to build those ambitions. But I also recognize that we have to be much more responsive to our country partners' larger ambitions. And we need to be willing to pursue some really targeted strategies around that. And so that brings me to my second reflection, which is about us as an organization and us as a region finding new ways of working together. The ambition that we've set for ourselves across the 1CG, as well as this shift that we're seeing in partner demands, is requiring us as an organization really to learn to work together differently and in different ways. Across South Asia, I know that for us, that's going to mean bringing together a number of groups that have all had particular ways of working in the past and have all worked together in those ways very successfully in the past. And so I think that we're going to have to challenge ourselves in our ways of thinking. We're going to have to try some new things. I'm fairly certain we're going to make some mistakes, and I think that's okay. I think that it's worth the risk for what we have the potential to achieve together. So just in closing, I would say that I'm still very much in learning mode. I did mention that it's day 2 for me. I'm continuing to have really good conversations with people. I'm looking forward to engaging with each of you in the region and across the organization. But I'm really looking for you to work with me, to bring new ideas and opportunities to the forefront, to bring new ways of thinking and working together to the table, and to really help build out those opportunities in the region. I really think that if we're able to come together that way, we're going to be able to help to take an active role in helping the countries in South Asia really achieve those sort of self-determined ambitions that they've set for themselves. And I think there couldn't be anything more exciting than that right now. So I'm going to stop there and hand it back over to Kundhavi, but thank you for letting me speak for a few moments.
Okay, thank you very much. You have given a lot of thought to what you want to do, and also in conjunction with all other colleagues. So thanks for that, Temina. Let me now move on to Joaquín Lozano. He is our new regional director for Latin America and the Caribbean. I won't take so much time speaking about him. He can speak about himself. I'm just checking the time, but Joaquín has such a rich experience, having worked with the IFA, the FAO, and in his own country, he was the head of the Infrastructure Policy and Public-Private Partnerships Unit at the Presidential Office. So a lot of a government as well as development partner community experience. With that, let me invite you, Joaquín.
Thank you so much, Kundhavi, and I'm very honored to be here. Well, Temina is on day 2. I'm on my actually countdown, less than 3 weeks for my formal and full joining the 1CGIAR on December 6th. I'm reading you now from Monterrey, Mexico, where I'm currently based, but I'm very thankful to SIP, who will be hosting me, and looking forward to seeing you all in Lima very soon. Thank you, Kundhavi and the EMT, for the strategic guidance that you are putting in place to make the One CGIAR model a success. And Kundhavi, I'm certain that under your global vision and experience, you will lead us in a cohesive way for all the regions to make really a very integrated and aligned work. And of course, in terms of alignment, I would like to be very, very close to the scientific teams and the institutional support ones. But in my case, I will be working at the LAC region and certainly working shoulder to shoulder with all the colleagues over there to build trust, confidence, and an integrated approach to deliver on this new era, a very exciting model of the One CGIAR that I'm going to be joining very soon. Well, you already heard a bit about me from Kundhavi, and or maybe have already heard and read when the announcement.
You are freezing out, Joaquín.
I'm very excited to bring my preview. Kundhavi, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a bit
Kundhavi?
Breaking up. It's breaking up.
Oh, really? Let me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Give me 1 second.
Okay, I think.
Kundhavi?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Joaquín.
I tried to, sorry, this typical things happening. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perhaps you can turn off the camera and
okay,
yeah.
Let's give it a try, because I was just saying that I'm bringing on my humble experience in the multilateral world, my country's federal government, and of course my academic and education sector experience as well. But most of all, colleagues, I will bring on my devotion to working with you, people, and for the people. I believe that in this new era of the CG, we have a two-way relationship, for instance, in LAC, what the One CGIAR will bring for LAC, but also what LAC can bring for the One CGIAR new model. And I believe that, that the CG will bring to the LAC region strengthening of its position of, as the net food exporting region in the world, but making it sustainable. I think we have to work very hard to support the mitigation of the deterioration of the heritage, the natural heritage of LAC. And we mostly work with rural people, the poorer ones, and try to mitigate the effects of the disparities that persist in the region, especially in the rural areas. And as we know, there is a big gap between the agribusiness and the smallholders, and we have to try and narrow that gap while we also overcome the impact of the pandemic. And on the other hand, I believe, and I truly believe, that LAC, together with the CGIAR centers based in the region, plus the solid regional and national R&D systems, the think tanks, the academic institutions, the talent that LAC has, together with the potential new funders, potential new investors, and also being grounds for testing or piloting and scaling up some of the newest innovations that the CGIAR are working on, will make LAC a very important region in this new era, working with you all. Thanks so much for the opportunity, and I can't wait to be joining the team on the 6th of December. Thank you so much.
Excellent, Joaquín. Thank you very much. Your experience in the academia, IFI, and also in the region is really going to be helpful for us in this particular phase of CGIAR. Let me now move next to André Zandstra, our Global Director of Innovative Finance and Resource Mobilization. Some of you know him. He's has been part of the CGIAR system as the Director of Funder and External Engagement, and very instrumental as part of our mobilization of funding. And prior to joining CGIAR, again, André has been a part of the CIAT, so a lot of experience within the CG system as a whole. So let me introduce and ask us, André, to come in and say a few words, and a couple of questions on the funding on this 1 billion. André, perhaps you can also try and cover that as part of your introduction. or at some other point if, in the Q&A. So with that, let me invite you, André.
Thank you, Kundhavi. Really pleased to join you all today in my new role. I wanted to provide just a bit of an introduction to what is innovative finance and resource mobilization and what we hope to accomplish. The overarching goal is quite simple. It's increase resources for CGIAR's 2030 research and innovation strategy, fund good science, and make big impact. But we want to take an enterprise approach to resource mobilization across CGIAR. That is increasing the ambition, reducing the fragmentation, and organizing around a collective goal to double or triple CGIAR resources on a sustainable and annual basis. But this requires new approaches. Business as usual will not work. We will not be able to double CGIAR research annually sustainably using the status quo. It would require a significant amount of increase in the number of grants to CGIAR, probably increasing it to more than 3,000 under contract, and that would just crash the system. So we do want to use a diversification strategy. The Innovative Finance and Resource Mobilization Group has a diversification strategy that's already in place. We started to implement that, and we're beginning to make progress. The recent pledges at the Global Citizens stage that happened in September, as well as COP26 most recently, provided significant support for pooled funding and signaled early confidence in CGIAR research and innovation strategy. I'll give a bit more information on those pledges, what they mean, and what they mean for research and the innovation strategies in just a few moments. So this same discipline needs to be applied to resource diversification strategy across CGIAR. That means that we're going to be leading strategies, targeting key growth channels of funding, as well as support the science groups and the regions and country programs to mobilize greater resources. Temina referenced this, Joaquín referenced this as part of their ambition, and Innovative Finance Resource Mobilization will be there to support that work. Diversification strategy targets both pooled and bilateral funding across 5 key areas. Those are expanding funding flows from traditional ODA funders. So that's traditionally our system council donors, but trying to access new and diversified resources that they have available to them. We also want to target new and emerging markets, diversifying representation of CGIAR funding, as well as growing new and unique partnerships across CGIAR's regions. A big space, particularly post-COP, is tapping into climate funds and finance. With CGIAR's research portfolio really significantly aligned with climate investment, we see that as a major opportunity for new funding to CGIAR. And also the 4th area, which is leveraging in-country flows of finance and developing framework programs with development banks. Joaquín comes from that experience. We can bring that into it in terms of how we can access country loans, how we can access country grants to help CGIAR both inform investment, deliver impact, but also gain resources to those programs. The last area is private investment and philanthropy. And this is where there's been quite a bit of experimentation across CGIAR, some good results and early results, but we need to take, I guess, a much more disciplined approach to the way that we're engaging private investment as well as philanthropy. This is a long-term strategy that requires specialized resources, specialized investments, and new ways of working across CG. So the diversification strategy has already started through the work of center-based resource mobilization staff, but we're really just scratching the surface. The early signals at the COP26, as well as these recent pledges, bode well for CGIAR funding, particularly as we look to 2022, but we aim to significantly increase both the quantity and the quality of both pooled and bilateral funding through this strategy. Maybe if we put up the slide, we can have a moment to just give a bit of an overview of those pledges, and happy to answer questions as they come up. So I referenced the 1 billion in terms of the pledges that we received. This was a very strong signal of support and confidence in the strategy, as well as the initiatives that are being designed by many of you on joining us today. There were a number of platforms where these pledges came in. The Global Citizens Live was a platform where there was a significant amount raised and pledged by Netherlands, by the European Commission, and by Belgium. COP26 mobilized significant investments across a number of our system council funders. And then we're also just continuing to look at pipeline opportunities to raise more funding, either at Nutrition for Growth, at Dubai Expo, and at other platforms into next year. If we break down this funding, and as Kundhavi said, 1 billion committed is not aligned with 2022 only. These are long-term commitments to CGIAR. They do represent a significant increase in pooled funding. So those pledges that you see on the screen represent 81% towards pooled funding. It represents 97% of that funding is multi-year, which provides the stability and confidence in our research program. And they are committed 100% in support of CGIAR and the transition that we're making. So there's a lot of support, but that does not necessarily end there. We do need to continue. We have a pipeline of funders who are standing up and getting ready to contribute and invest more in CGIAR. And this will drop down into the 2022 to 2024 research strategy and investment plan. And we have a target to reach over $1 billion for those 3 years of financial support. So very positive signals, initial signals of support, but we're continuing. Resource mobilization can never sleep, and it is a collective ambition. So that means that everyone's a part of it, and really want to thank everybody who's contributed to CGIAR, to the reputation that we have, and making this much easier to do. Thank you. Back to you, Kundhavi.
Oh, thank you very much, André, and thank you and the larger team that worked in making this happen. Again, as you said, this is just the start. We have a long road to go in terms of funding. So what André laid out is something that we all need to be working together. Let me now go to Lotte Pang. She's the Global Director of Communication and Outreach, and I won't go into the details of the bio, but she comes with a lot of experience having worked at the World Bank Group and other private sector, including McKinsey and Company. With that, can I invite you, Lotte, to introduce and speak a bit about your vision?
Absolutely, and thank you, Kundhavi. I am thrilled to be finally on board and to have this opportunity to meet everyone here. I firmly believe that CGIAR is in the right place at the right time. In the same way that science has delivered the solutions that we need for COVID, we know that science is key to meeting other global challenges. But science needs support to deliver that impact. It needs funding, a conducive political environment, and partners, and communications. So for me, it's a real honor to have the opportunity to contribute at this important point, both in our human history and our organization's history. I would like to talk a little bit about what I think it will take to build a world-class global communications practice. So first, let me say that I've had so much positive feedback in recent weeks about the communications team. So I know we're starting from a position of strength and that we have a wealth of experience and expertise on board. But communicating as one CGIAR will mean doing some things differently. We will, as a priority, put in place the resources to support internal communications. We'll have a new brand coming soon, which is exciting. We need to position that brand so we'll stand out in a crowded field. We'll have a communication strategy that supports our global goals and keeps us focused on communicating impact. The strategy will make sure that we're prioritizing and not competing with each other for audience attention. We'll build new relationships and partnerships at the global level with media and other stakeholders. We'll continue to deliver high quality content and events, and we'll drive and partner on campaigns that position us as thought leaders and innovators. We'll support knowledge sharing across the organization, and we'll build communications capacity, enabling an army of skilled spokespeople and communicators. will develop global approaches to monitoring, reporting, and reputational risk. So those are just some of the ideas I'm excited to take forward. But this is my second day on the job too, so this is really a conversation starter. And I would love to hear your vision for communications and also about how communications and outreach can support your teams. Finally, I would love to challenge us to be as innovative in our communications as we are in our science. The pace of change in media, news, and entertainment is breathtaking. How we can engage audiences is changing in thrilling ways. We're in a world where people rave about Netflix documentaries on fungi, where an excitable train spotter on TikTok has 1.2 million followers, including me, and where podcasts or TED Talks on history or economics can change the way we see the world. So I think that if these approaches can work for trains, history, behavioral economics, why not for water, wheat, and genetics? So we have a 50-year history to be proud of, but I'm super inspired about our future. And I'm excited to be here in the right place at the right time to help write this next chapter. And I really look forward to working with all of you. So thank you, and back to you, Kundhavi.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well said, Lotte. Again, let me thank all the 4 directors for having joined us and shared their thoughts. And let me now pass this back to Claudia.
Great, and we'll do a bit of passing round. I just have to add my, my welcome, my thanks, and my enthusiasm for the 4 new directors that we introduced today. It gives me energy, as I hope it gives all of you, in terms of all of the ways in which we can try to leverage our game moving forward. In this next section, I'm actually going to turn right back to Lotte to ask her to help moderate a discussion around many of the questions that we've received. So please, over to you, Lotte.
Thank you, Claudia. And I'm pretty sure this is what they call being thrown in at the deep end. So we're going to start this next half of the webinar with a quick poll. So the question is, what topic has not been covered so far that should be? So if you can go to menti.com and use the code 55217107, or use the direct link in the chat, it's just been shared, or use the QR code now appearing on the screen, you can participate in that poll. So I think we're going to see some of those results as they come in. Yeah, we're going to leave this on for a little while so that everyone can get the information. And now we're going to see the results as they come in. Youth in senior management. Salaries, yeah. Affiliation. Great, lots of questions, lots of people flagging affiliation, job security, career path. Interesting, and I know a lot of these are going to be covered in this webinar. Right, so now as we move on into the second half, it's time for the EMT to address some of the many questions that we've received from everyone. These do touch on what lies ahead with the transition. They do cover affiliation. That's obviously front of mind for many people, and what affiliation actually means, and initiatives and the new CGIAR structure. So our first question, this one's for Elwyn. It's a question that's come in from multiple people, including Emma Quilligan and Chanda Debashish. Apologies if I pronounce names incorrectly. So Elwyn, when will we hear about affiliation?
I hope you'll hear about it end of this month or the first week or 2 of December, but we're aiming for end of this month. It took a little longer than planned. That some of the complications of getting the data and really working through it. Added some delays, but we're really almost there, colleagues, and thanks for your patience. All staff will soon receive a letter communicating their, we're using the term initial affiliation because, of course, over time, things may change in the organization. People may move groups, things may shift, but their initial affiliation with a global, one of the 10 global groups or one of the 6 regional groups in the one CGIAR structure. We're doing, as I said, we're trying to get those letters out at the end of this month. Those letters will also explain and provide more details on what the affiliation is and actually what it isn't. They will also offer a clear channel for a point of contact if you have additional questions or concerns. We're putting up a slide right now that lists those points of contacts for each center. And huge thanks to those people that are playing this important role to help colleagues as they may have questions. Please reach out to your focal points at any time if you have questions. And these details will, of course, be included in that letter. As I said, they will indicate a point of contact. But just stepping back, let's recall what affiliation is. We initially thought of this idea to make sure that really staff across CGIAR have a sense of them belonging in that new structure, that we all have a stake in making this work, and we're all going to play a role one way or another in being part of it. So it was really to understand where each staff member could be positioned in the new one CGIAR structure. And that was is very much based on current responsibilities and disciplinary focus. The affiliation that will be communicated is really the result of very careful consideration by each entity's management team and the one CGIAR leadership. As I said, it took a bit longer than expected because of just the complexity around this process. What affiliation does not mean is an immediate change to your reporting line, your daily work or your contract, your compensation and benefits. It does not change those things. The next step following affiliation will be to gradually bring colleagues formally into the one CGIAR operating structure, beginning with senior positions through reporting line changes. When we start doing this, will depend on key governance aspects, such as various authorizing environments being decided upon now by center boards. So this will be a gradual process. We will change reporting lines when we're ready, when we collectively feel ready to do so. And of course, staff will be notified ahead of time for when that takes place. So sorry, a slightly long answer, Lotte, but since there were so many questions about this, thanks for your patience. Back to you.
No, thank you, Elwyn. It's a very important topic. So the next question is for Kundhavi, and it comes from Moses Siambi. When will engagement with national agricultural research systems begin?
Thank you, Moses, for that important question. And NAS is central to the new research and innovation strategy of CGIAR, and also the operating structure to deliver on that strategy is we are really want to embed it, the central focus on the national agriculture research system. So it's not that when do we start, we have already started. A lot of work has already begun. Starting with the regional directors and the global directors. The regional directors, Ali actually involved a very successful dialogue a few months ago, bringing all the National Agriculture Research System partners together. We spoke about the new CGIAR research and innovation strategy, what it means for that region. Similarly, we had in Eastern and Southern Africa, we had a big event that Herald put together with the National Agriculture Research Systems and the network of NAS coming together. And a similar one for India by the acting regional director there. So engagement has already started to talk about our new strategy and the structure and what does it mean to working very closely with the national system. So did the science group directors and the initiative design team as part of the development of the new initiatives as well. Along with that, I also want to highlight the Global Director for Partnership and Advocacy, Juan Lucas, has a central focus with respect to, I saw the capacity development as an issue that came out in the survey that was polled, is to bring about how do we work closely with the national systems so that we can learn from each other and partner with each other. Even in our conversations with the Rome-based agency, particularly with the FAO on the Global Forum on Agriculture Research, how do we work together with the global agencies in terms of working very much on the national agriculture research systems? So in a sense, it shouldn't be like what was done in the past. It's much more practically rolling up our sleeves and working along with them. And that's where the partnership director, the regional directors, as well as the science group directors can play an important role with the people on the ground. Since these questions, particularly on national agriculture research system, come about, I would really welcome also thoughts from colleagues, particularly people who are on the ground, to give us more ideas how we should be doing in a more embedded in all that we do. So in that sense, we also gain from your practical knowledge on the ground. I hope this was useful, but the message that I want to leave with you all is there's so much going on that we need to bring it all together to see that it is having a bigger impact than what we have done in the past. Over to you back, Lotte.
Thank you. And now a question for Claudia. And this one comes from Shitu Adeni Pekun. And the question is, how is CGIAR incorporating youth into its initiatives, especially as it relates to agribusiness?
So this is a great question, and I think that this is a question we really haven't heard before in webinars, the engagement of youth and agribusiness. So this is an area that we really are trying to put some strength into. We are trying to incorporate youth into some of the initiative designs. This is really essential, particularly in Africa, where we see that we're on the cusp of a real youth bulge. We expect the majority of Africa's 100 million young people to be entering the workforce over the next 10 years. And we want them to be able to find exciting opportunities in agriculture. So part of our thinking is how can we create a more exciting space for them? So we're looking to really engage youth. We expect that they have a much greater readiness to innovate. They're much more diverse in their talents and capabilities, perhaps. And not to say that older people aren't innovative and diverse in their capabilities and talents as well, but it is new perspective and it is a new energy. We have, if I can remind you, youth inclusion alongside gender equality is one of the 5 impact areas that CGIAR aims to have a global measurable impact in the coming decade in our 2030 research strategy. We aim to really create opportunities for the 270 roughly million young people who are not yet employed or involved in education or training. But we don't yet have a full picture across our initiatives. We're working on that right now. But we do expect that we should see a certain amount of this opportunity really in the work that we're doing on value chain oriented initiatives and also in the regional integrated initiatives where we really have a sense of context and place in the work that we're doing. Some examples of ways in which we're already engaging youth are designing innovation hubs for young entrepreneurs, for example, in the Resilient Cities Initiative, looking at developing internship programs for young researchers with the aim of really growing a cohort within CGIAR through partnerships with university networks, examples, for example, like the Regional Universities Forum for Capacity Building in Agriculture, or RU Forum, as well as existing CGIAR partnerships like African Women in Agricultural Research and Development, the award program. We're looking at targeting women, youth, and vulnerable groups with direct interventions in HER+, which is the Harnessing Equality for Resilience in Agri-Food Systems initiative that's being developed, and we'll also there be testing social protections and other interventions to help reduce poverty and promote inclusion, to work to strengthen both voice and agency of women, youth, and marginalized groups. And finally, accelerating existing accelerator programs, supporting existing accelerator programs. For example, with the regional initiatives for Eastern and Southern Africa, there's a whole work package on youth engagement and empowerment through accelerator grants, technical assistance to small and medium enterprises, and providing access to networks. So these are some of the ways at which we're looking to really bring youth into our activities, and we really welcome more ideas. This is one of our impact areas, and it's something we're committed to. So thank you, Shitu, for that question.
Great, thank you, Claudia, for the answer. And the next question is for Elwyn, and this one's going to be asked live. So I think Sylvia Oyinlola is going to join us. Yeah, I see you there. Can you unmute and then ask a question?
Hello, my question is, what are the 3 challenges that you faced in this transition process?
Thanks, Sylvia. And thanks so much for asking the question live. It's great to see us using this function. There's a lot we could say about that. Lotte, how long do I have? 2 minutes for this one?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
All right, I'll do my best. It's because there's a lot of challenges to do something this audacious, this special, this really quite unheard of, to make this kind of change to a pre-existing set of organizations, and it'll be brilliant when we're through this now, but it's tough as we go through it. So I would just say a few things. First challenge was the sequential nature of the change. We would all love to see a nice blueprint, but like you put something on Google Maps, you have an exact destination, you have an exact route. It's just nothing like that, right? This kind of change, you have, I guess, to use the mountain range analogy, we have a landscape we're trying to get to, broadly defined. We have this journey we need to plot out, but each time we go over a peak, we get a new set of information about the land, how we may need to amend our path. Each time we get a new leadership in place, we need to give them the space to refine that destination a bit and help us chart that course in a bit more granularity. And that's hard for everybody, because it means we're living with ambiguity, which we're bringing down over time, but it's meant a lot of patience, and it's meant it doesn't fit the blueprint model. That's the first thing. Second thing, time and bandwidth. We have to do this change using the people we've got, because they're the ones that have to make this change happen. They understand CGIAR, but those people are already busy doing a whole bunch of things, right? Their existing roles. So it's just been tough, and everyone's, so many colleagues across the CGIAR are just working extra hours, working extra hard to make this happen, getting in as much external support as we can. But that notion of bandwidth and our ability to absorb extra tasks is a great challenge. And actually, that's where we have paused or delayed or given more time for certain tasks. And that's as we do our new business plan the next 3 years, we are looking at trying to find the right pacing here that's not too slow that we lose momentum or funder interest or even staff motivation, because we don't like living with the uncertainty either, but we don't overwork ourselves during this process for this whole duration. Third thing is information. It's been hard getting data in some of these processes. We didn't have ready data. We didn't know actually how much we spend on things across the CGIAR, how many staff we have on certain issues. And it's just amazing actually to get data on things like what do we spend in total in the CGIAR on financial management, on IT systems, how many people do we have working on various things. So it's great to get that. And if I can give a bonus for, since you asked the question in person, Sylvia, the communications is another one. I wish we've had an amazing group of communicators, but we've had not enough capacity on that. I wish we'd had Lotte a year ago and a team in place. So it's that old adage, you can't over communicate in a change process. And I wish we could have done even more, but we're doing our best and we're ramping that one up. So back to you, Lotte.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elwyn, and thank you, Sylvia, again for asking the question live. That was great. So the next question came in during the last webinar, and it brought up an important point, and it comes from Kwesi Atakra. So the question is, all roads seem to lead to Rome when it comes to global presence in food and agriculture, with FAO, World Food Programme, and IFAD all based there. Do we see one CGIAR now being able to position itself as the fourth pillar in this global food systems network? Any thoughts on this? And perhaps Kundhavi, would you like to take this?
Yes, sorry it took so long to come back and respond to that question, but it makes sense, isn't it? That CGIAR to be recognized globally as the fourth pillar in the global food systems and agencies located in Rome. FAO being the technical and policy arm of the food systems, WFP as a humanitarian emergency response, and IFAD as the investment arm. We would then be a very strong research and evidence-based organization supporting the food systems as a whole. So that's the overall hope that even when we decided on the EMT being located in Rome, that it would be a good rationale for deeper engagement with the Rome-based agencies and the partners who are visiting. Many countries, particularly when FAO has its intergovernmental agency meetings, they come here. It's also an opportunity for them to meet with CGIAR when they are located here. So those were the sort of big opportunities that we have being based here, and we hope that can take us very much in that direction. The fact even at the recent global events, including the G20, that CGIAR was at the same table with the WFP, FAO, and IFAD actually speaks how even external players start seeing us as in equivalent to the other three agencies as well. Again, more recently, we have been in discussion with WFP, FAO, in terms of high-level, collaborations together. With WFP, we are almost completing. With the FAO, still in the process of discussion. So we see the opportunities are huge when it comes to being located here and being more strategic, collaborating with them. And the opportunities will be much more bigger now that the food systems, at the country level, we can actually be the research and innovation part of the UN agencies when they are working at the country level. How do we sort of make that thing happen is also a strategic conversation that we are having with the Rome-based agency. There was another question which is on branding, I suppose. Perhaps it's for you, Lotte, but since you are coming in yesterday, I won't overwhelm you with that. But there has always been a question relating to the center brands and the new CGIAR brand that we are rebranding, that exercise that we are currently engaged in. We are moving to the final stretch of it, and colleagues, please be aware that we are very much acutely aware and quite sensitive. How do we sort of keep the center brands and the new rebranding of the CGIAR, how they will coexist? And how do we sort of build on each other? Because there is value in both. And so in that sense, we'll come to you all as we close this rebranding exercise in the next few weeks. But before we really launch that, there'll be further discussion internally. We are right now in the process of doing a survey externally based on all the good input that came about in the summer from internal surveys. So before we move forward, we will be coming to you and responding to some of the concerns that you have expressed about your respective center brands and how we would be managing these two together, along with the potential names for the rebranding of the CGIAR. So I hope for now, because of time constraint, I'll just stop there, but with the promise, we'll come back to you.
Great, thank you for answering 2 questions for the price of 1. So now we have a live question for Claudia, and this is coming from Victor Comarel. And I see Victor is online, so please unmute, thank you, and please go ahead. Victor?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Good. Sorry, for some reason it doesn't work with the video.
Sure.
So hello, global CGIAR leaders. The question is, how will initiatives be run? Who decides by when? 3 reasons for asking this question. We're moving from 15 to 32 units, whatever they're called, initiatives, used to be CRPs. Higher coordination transaction costs, question mark. We remain in a 30-70 reality, 30% pooled, 70% bilateral. 3rd reason, building competence and capacity in the domain of managing programs as opposed to just projects. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Victor. And let me also call attention to a related question I see in the chat from Pascal Sabag. Who will handle the operational management of the initiatives that will be launched on January 1st, 2022? Will there be initiative managers? How and when will they be hired? And where in the organization will they sit? So all of these are obviously very relevant questions and ones that we're working on right now. So given the time, I will try to answer directly and briefly. What we see now is that across the teams, we have excellent people in place to run the initiatives when they're launched early next year. And I, again, need to acknowledge the tremendous work and commitment of those who have been involved in creating these exciting initiatives and supporting the initiative design teams under the leadership of Barbara Yo and Martin, the technical teams and the IDT leads. So the science group directors, along with myself, will appoint interim leads for each of the initiatives to ensure that we can swiftly move ahead without delay into our January 2022 initiatives. For the first batch of initiatives, the intended launch and the appointments for those that will launch on January 1st, that first batch, will be announcing very, very shortly. We will also then have the opportunity to review interim appointments in mid-2022, and where appropriate, we can welcome at that point expressions of interest for the longer term. In terms of staffing up the teams, the initiative leads will be staffing up, will make recommendations for staffing up their teams under the oversight and pending the approval of the science group directors in consultation with myself. And where they will be anchored within the organization is into the science groups. That mapping process, again, is something that will be undertaken by the science group directors in consultation with myself, but we have seen already really where those initiatives have fallen in the development process. And so that should be something that is fairly straightforward. If anyone wants to look at the dashboard, you'll get a sense of where and who is working on those initiatives right now. And we will be ready with interim appointments to launch in January 2022. Back over to you, Lotte.
Well, actually, we're going to come to a close now because we're running up against time. So I'm actually going to say thank you for the opportunity to participate in this and to meet so many staff on this and for answering those questions. And so back to you, Claudia, to close up.
Okay, great. So we would have put out a usual final poll in order to find out what you want to hear about next time, but feel free to go ahead and write in afterward as you like. But colleagues, let me just take the opportunity to say that this is our final all-staff webinar for the year. And so I need to express my tremendous appreciation for the dedication and patience that all of you have shown over this past year. It was truly a year full and continues to be a year full of challenges and transitions. We've made a tremendous amount of progress on the One CGIAR reforms thanks to all of your hard work. We believe that we are ending this year with real strength and looking forward to a very strong start in 2022. So after a final sprint for many of us, many of you in these next few weeks leading to the end of the calendar year, And after what I hope will be a well-earned rest for everyone over the New Year period, we really look forward to continuing our work together. And our next all-staff webinar, which will be in 2022 in the next iteration, I think in this next exciting chapter for One CGIAR. I'm sorry, I'm seeing that we do have some results. Do we have some results from a poll, Victoria, that we can show? Great. This is our view to future webinars, what we will want to see next time. Affiliation, we hope long before the next webinar, you will all have had very clear communications. Yes, so it's a question about future webinars and communications. Again, we're working to get that information to you right away. We should have updates on IDT leadership, that affiliation communication we hope will provide significant comfort with regard to questions around job security, operating structures, salaries, etc. Again, we're working very hard to ensure minimal disruption to everyone, strong business continuity, and a real sense of belonging for everyone in the new One CGIAR structure, because CGIAR is just all of us. And so this is what we are together making work. Anyways, back to my final thought again, which was simply, I hope everyone ends the year strongly, takes a good solid rest, and we look forward to working with everyone. Welcome again to our new our new directors that were introduced today. Exciting to have all that new energy and expertise. And everyone take care, be well, and look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks everyone, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.